I'm just shaking my head, man. I don't know how to describe this team anymore. They, Will Ferrell, when he was on Saturday Night Live, did the James Lipton character, the inside the actor studio, James Lipton, and he did this one thing where he's like, I have to create a word right now. And the word he came up with was scrumtrelescent. That's how I can describe this Avalanche team and what happened last night against Boston. Unbelievable.
This is like a Penn and Teller thing. I have nothing to say. Like, it's just
no. You're getting a different intro, by the way, people. So here it is.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yeah, our wonderful hosts at the Locked On Nuggets were using our Denver account, so I had to switch over to the NHL account. So for those on YouTube, you got to look at the Locked On NHL intro. Nonetheless, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Unreal. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. The Colorado Avalanche find another way to win. And this is what we've been talking about for the past couple weeks now. And I had even mentioned they're like the New England Patriots of the Tom Brady era, where you just know they're never out of it. They will find a way to win. And if you give them a little bit of leeway, they'll take advantage of it, even when things aren't going their way.
Yeah.
And somehow they find a way to tie in regulation and win it in overtime thanks to the captain. Incredible game. This is going to rival the Panthers game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When we kind of look back on this year. Wow. What do you got?
Who knew the Eastern Conference could be so fun?
It can be sometimes. And you don't see Boston a lot. And you knew what kind of game you were going to get from them. They're a bruising team. And maybe to their detriment against Nathan MacKinnon, but we'll get to all of that. But first things first, follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe and get notified when any show goes live. Where to start with this thing, man? I think just start at the end with a victory. And the Avalanche, I was right before that Girard goal that got them down 3-2. I really was getting like myself prepared for a loss. I'm like, all right, well, this streak, both streaks are going to come to an end. The winning streak's going to come to an end. The home winning streak's going to come to an end. It just had that appeal of the game. Boston, I don't want to say Boston was in charge. I think there was a lot of back and forth. But I was going to call for a investigation into who let Andre Vasilevsky wear a Bruins jersey for this game, because Ullmark was incredible. He was incredible, and it was just you just got the feeling they can't get anything by him. There's no way they're going to be able to get two by him because they got to tie this thing up. And the one that they did get by him was, of all people, Curtis McDermott. Just an odd game up to that point, but holy crap, they did it. They did it again.
Yeah, and I was right there in that boat with you. I was talking to someone, and we were talking about the streak being over, and I was like, well, when streaks end, they end kind of rough.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're just like, well, this was a rough game. You just move on. But there's still that little twinge of like,
you always have that.
And you had that same feeling in that Buffalo Bills game that over the weekend where they're like, there's just too much time on the clock. There's too much time on the clock. And when you have a full third period of an angry Avalanche team, that's too much time on the clock.
Yeah, when you're down multiple goals going into the third, you always want to get one as quickly as possible, because then you can play with the rest of the period and try to just somehow get that other one.
Yeah.
And when it got under 10 minutes, I just had the feeling like, man, this is a grind. They're playing very well in the third. They were throwing everything at Boston, everything at Allmark, but it just wasn't materializing into goals. And once again, it just went their way when it had to. It was incredible to watch.
And for everything that happened in that second period, it felt like everything was going wrong. And
yeah,
by the end of the game, I think it was Cale Makar, Devin Tays, and Landy were clocking 30 minutes of ice time. And it was one of those that they had every reason to be like, well, not our night. It had to end sometime, and just get out of there. Like, you're already leaving hurt. Don't leave even more hurt. Like, Nas took a nasty hit before Nate went down. So it was one of those things like you just wanted to get out there unscathed, but they did not give up.
Well, you wanted to get out there unscathed beyond what happened to Nathan MacKinnon. And, I don't want to make it seem like because the Avs won the game eventually that, there's not things that were bad in this game. Eric Johnson almost crushed this team.
Yeah.
I don't know what he got away with a cross check on Taylor Hall. And I wonder if he kept throwing cross checks on him because it was Taylor Hall and he's the one that hit, the stick that hit McKinnon. He's responsible for what happened to McKinnon. And they were trying all game long to just poke and prod at Taylor Hall, and he didn't want any part of it. So I don't know if that was the reason why that Johnson kept cross-checking him, but you can't do that stuff. You're already down. They were already on a power play. And now they go down to a 5-3 penalty kill. And technically they get both of them. It was the second one came a second or two after the power play had finished. So that player hadn't come into the play yet. Just a dumb. It's a lapse in judgment. He should not have done that. He's got to know better than that.
And in those situations where a star player or a young player gets taken out in a hit like that and they have to leave the ice, there's a fine line in sending a message and then making it a mission for revenge. Like, if you send a message, you go right out after the hit and you say, okay, that's enough of that. But if you're continuing to go after that player every time he hits the ice, that becomes a mission, and you're straying your focus away from getting that win. And that's what EJ was toying with right there.
Exactly. And Landeskog went after him a couple times. And he was skating away from him. And I get it. Like, make the attempt to settle the score. If he keeps skating away from you, like you just said, you're getting out of your game plan. Now your mission is to go after him. That's not your mission. You tried once, you tried twice. Let it go and bring it up another time, because you're going to be playing them again pretty soon, because that's one of the makeup games in February. So settle the score then. The hit itself, look, people, like, I know there's allegiances here, and whenever anything happens to an Avalanche player, a lot of people are going to take the road of that was vicious, that was intentional. He should be kicked out of the game, suspended for 10. Like, I will be the first person, and Kyle will too, to put the blame on somebody who absolutely deserves it. It was not a dirty hit. He ran into his stick. Was he going to check him? Clearly he was. And if he had, it wasn't going to be in the head. And you, like, please, I'm pleading with some people who are just saying like that was intentional and they're going after Taylor Hall's head. And during the second period, when they announced that McKinnon was not going to return, they said this is why, and they showed a very close up view of that hit, and McKinnon's stick is a good foot or two away from him, and that's where he makes contacts with his hands, what are on the stick, and it just goes back into his face. It's a freak thing, and it's just you can't just want to drag Taylor Hall through the mud for this. I'm telling me if I'm seeing it wrong.
You're not, and it's one of those that I think it was pretty clear once you started looking at the replay. I think what a lot of everybody's reaction, you see Nathan MacKinnon down, withering in pain, and then you see, using a wrestling term, you see color falling out of his face.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
you're immediately like, oh, you can't do that to Nathan MacKinnon, and then the Twitter machine blows up.
Right.
But when you look at the replay, you can't edit your tweets. So if you send it, it's out there. It's either delete it or ride with it. And there was a lot of people saying that's intentional. Taylor Hall's dirty. I mean, it was just a season or two ago. Everybody and their brother wanted Taylor Hall a member of the Avalanche, and now he's the dirtiest player in the game.
Yeah.
Can't have it both ways.
I was ready. I was ready to do some tweeting about Taylor Hall and say some not so nice things. And I'm glad I didn't hit send because, you watch it had all the makings of what is he doing? It looked like a headshot, and our star player is down on the ice bleeding profusely. This is everything of Taylor Hall. You are a marked man in Avalanche eyes for the rest of your career. And then you get replay and you realize it was not egregious and intentional. And if there's people listening to this right now that are, completely in disagreement with us, I can't help that. We will not be that show that just sides with everything that happens to the Avalanche and make it seem like they are in the right in everything. If they do dumb things, we call it out. We do often. And when a player on another team injures our star player, if it's intentional, you better damn well believe we will say it's intentional. I can't go there with this Taylor Hall hit. I can't.
Can't. And you look at the replay. Do your research before you take a stand because the replay speaks volumes.
Even having said everything that we just said, he still needs to man up. He does. Yeah. I mean, you did, intentional or not. You hit our star player. Remember when John Tavares got hit in the playoffs last year? That scary moment in the playoffs. That was not intentional. Corey Perry did not intend to do that. He still had to man up and fight. And I don't think. And go watch the Toronto All or Nothing series because it happens. But they're recording for this series when that happened, and they're even like, we knew, he didn't do it intentional, but it's like the code.
Yeah.
You got to man up. So, and he didn't want to, but he will. He will have to make amends for that with against Landeskog or McDermott or somebody. I don't know. It's going to have to happen. All right, let's hear from BetOnline and then continue this conversation. But BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue to march towards the playoffs, or we're in the playoffs. We continue to march towards the Super Bowl and beyond. So BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year and a new updated desktop and mobile website. When you sign up today, you'll receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit just using the promo code Locked On. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports, and it's where the game starts. That's betonline.ag. All right, so where else to go with this thing? You got to talk about the Curtis McDermott goal.
Yeah,
finally got one, and it was the opening. It started the scoring, the very first one. When you're watching him, and we've been critical of him, or I know I've been very critical of him. You do see some incremental improvement over the games. You know what you have in him, and you know what he's there for. But he has started to look to shoot when he's open.
Yeah,
and at least he's getting them on net. And I think this was maybe inevitable. I think we all thought he was going to at least get one by the end of the year, and it was last night.
It wasn't a bad shot. And honestly, it was one of those, like, you've been seeing this new side of Curtis in his, like, taking a shot when he has it. It's nice to see one go in. So I think he's building confidence, and he's like, you know what, I could do more than 3 minutes of ice time and getting a scrum that nobody wants to fight with me.
Well, what did he have last night? Let me see. 8 minutes, 31 seconds. That's like double ice time for him. You know what I mean? Let's see. Going into, it's so weird looking at the the stat sheet and seeing Nathan MacKinnon with 56 seconds of ice time. That's just weird. We know why, but it's just odd. And your guns, like with Taves and Makar, both over 31 minutes of ice time.
Yeah.
That's including overtime and everything, but still that's a workload, and they're up for it. Mikko Rantanen with over 24 minutes, Nazem Kadri with 27 minutes, Landeskog with 26 and change. Guys were doing some heavy lifting, and you're gonna have to do that when Nathan MacKinnon is out. And where is who I thought played well, man, and he needed to, was Burakovsky. He needed to step up. Like, okay, man, like we need you now.
Yeah.
You need to be the facilitator, and you might need to, run point on power plays, and you got to be the scoring muscle here. And he only had an assist, but he was getting shots on net. He wasn't making stupid turnovers. Like, he was active. Like, that's what I like to see out of Burakovsky.
Yeah, and to all those conversations we had on yesterday's episode about like Jost and JT and people saying, well, it's going to be sad to see them go. And we talked about it at the end of the episode, this is the time for them to step up. And you see Burakovsky, he was visible out there. He was taking shots. His passes looked okay. And you see that stepping up from McDermott. Like, wow, you scored a goal. That's interesting. But if you go back and look at the assists and the points of tonight, they're still not on the score sheet.
Yeah.
Like, Nathan MacKinnon's out. Somebody's got to fill that role. Everybody's logging extra ice time. This is the moments that we're talking about. Somebody has to step up. Nuke was very visible. He was in the plays. He was looking great. But we're now approaching this huge separation between the top two lines and the bottom two lines. And that's where things get a little dicey.
Yeah, because you look at Maltsev, 4 minutes, 52 seconds. Abe Kubel, who's been playing pretty decent minutes, his are going down lately. 5 minutes and 26 seconds. So, like, that part of it you don't want to see. You're happy with what Burakovsky did. You're happy with what Nichushkin did. But you also need, when a guy like McKinnon goes down, those depth guys, those fourth liners to really step up their game as well.
Yep.
And they really weren't out there for all that much. Even Logan O'Connor was another one who was just everywhere, and I can't believe he didn't get a goal. Like, he had some really good looks, and just some
got a post.
Yeah, right off a face off. Like, it looked good.
And we were talking the other day about who we would want to pluck from Chicago, and I'm just putting this in perspective for all those that were questioning the JT Jost thing. Chicago scored 8 goals against Detroit last night.
Right.
8. That they are stepping up when they don't need to. Like, they have nothing to prove right now. The Avalanche do. And in a game that you lose Nathan MacKinnon and you have the opportunity to get the puck a little bit more and do something with it, and you're not, that's what I'm talking about. So, like, when it comes to trade value, everybody on Chicago looks a little bit more valuable than lines 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So,
and Jost had 11 and a half minutes, so not bad. But yeah, nothing on. I mean, -1, but whatever. He did have some shots on goal, but yeah, I mean, you want those guys to really kind of take the reins on some things and step up, and some guys did, and some guys just didn't do as much as you wanted them to. You mentioned Nichushkin. Personally, I think Val Nichushkin needs to be on the first group. Whenever the Avs go into overtime, he needs to be on that first group. You can't stop him.
No.
He does that move where he's on the right side and he will beat his guy, not so much with his speed, but with his size and once he gets a little bit of a drop on a guy and he can kind of like put him kind of in his hip pocket, and he makes that move where he crosses in front of the goalie and tries to, roof it right over his head. He is a force in overtime. So, I mean, I say he should be on that opening pairing. He's out there. if he's not on the opening one, they're putting him out there next, which I'm obviously fine with. But he's dangerous for the Avs on the overtime sessions.
And I feel like the reason they put Nuke where he is because Gabe and Nuke play a similar style. Nuke is a little bit more physical, but like once you get into that offensive zone, they both resort to the same position right in front of that goalie. And I feel like you can't have two players down there. We'd be running a reverse like 3-on-2.
It's true. Yeah, no, it is true. They do kind of have a similar style to them. So I wanted to read this because Peter Ball just posted it. When Gabriel Landeskog was asked on the McKinnon play, he said, the hit itself, I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah.
Or it's that bad, I should say that. The hit itself, I don't think it's that bad. But at the end of the day, when one of your best friends, single tier there, man, come on, you're striking the feels. When one of your best friends and teammates and best players gets hit like that in the neutral zone, we just have to make sure there are no consequences. Okay.
And at the post game, the TNT crew interviewed Landy right after the game, and they asked him about the hit as well. And he said in that first period, it looked bad, but he's like, once we went into the tunnel for the intermission and got to actually look at it, it wasn't. So things like kind of calmed down from there.
Right.
But he said like the initial reaction was that was a dirty hit. But once he actually got his eyes on it, things calmed down.
Somebody posted a picture of Nathan MacKinnon. Did you see the one picture?
That was Kyle Keefe.
Did Kiefer post that? What, like straight on him bleeding, his nose basically like under his ear?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, he wasn't coming back.
No.
A couple other posts from Peter Baugh. Jared Bednar said that was our biggest win of the year. No updates from Bednar on Nathan MacKinnon other than that he doesn't think he'll travel to Chicago. He said he was not good enough to return to the game. They'll assess him tomorrow. He didn't like the Taylor Hall hit. It's the type of hit the league is trying to get rid of. I don't agree with you there, Jared. I don't like, and maybe, he must have seen it during the intermission. I don't know why he wouldn't have, but I think it's just a freak thing. It's a freak accident. If Nathan MacKinnon doesn't pick his stick up there to try to get around Taylor Hall, he's going to get hit. Yep. You know what I mean? And it's one of these things where it's everybody wants to throw their hands up because like, oh, it's Nathan MacKinnon. Don't touch Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon hits a lot of other people, and we're okay with that. He's going to get hit too. Yeah, you don't want anybody to get hit where it's a serious injury. And then the superstars maybe take it a little bit further where it's like, hands off the superstars. I don't play that game. Like they're out there skating too. They're fair game. I don't want you going, headshotting on them, just like I don't want you going headshot on, Jacob McDonald. So, but this specific play is just a freak thing. His stick was in the wrong place right when Taylor Hall was coming, and it came back and nailed him in the face. What are you going to do?
And if you've ever held a hockey stick, they are meant to flex. And the way that Hall hit that stick, it flexed. He hit that stick so hard, it flexed and broke his nose. So at least it wasn't like a legitimate head injury, because then we'd be talking concussion.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking at first. and we know what we're doing with concussions in this team. So
it's not and especially with your best friend being Sidney Crosby. You don't want that either.
Right.
So
and then one more from Peter Baugh. Gabriel Landeskog wanted to fight Taylor Hall when he hit him by the Bruins bench. I was trying to force him to do it, but he didn't want to do it. That's okay. Okay. So we will move on from that. All right. So one final thing that we're going to do, and this is something that, new that kind of, we had the idea when we had the opening on the YouTube side of things where I threw out, I said, express to me in Meatloaf songs how you're feeling of the Tennessee Titans losing. And they were like, why don't we do this for Avalanche games? And every Avalanche game will kind of take the tone of the game and then throw out a song on how we are feeling based on the win or loss by the Avalanche. So And if you follow on Twitter, we did this. I just posted one. We didn't talk about it on the show, but I did post a graphic for it. We will discuss and then post graphics to Twitter on it. But for me, I think I went through like three different songs because this game had so many different like aspects to it. But in the end, the way that game ended, I think the only one for me to pick is the song by the band, the Kaiser Chiefs, and the name of the song is "Oh My God," and it's just that's just what you're saying after that game was over. I mean, you said you woke your kid up from, and that's what you're doing. You're just like that was playoff atmosphere, and I'm literally like jumping up and down in my living room, just saying like, "Oh my God!" Like this was a incredible game from start to finish.
Yeah, it was. When you said it rivals the Florida game, I think in the grand scheme of things, this one's going to be one of those that you point back to. This is one of our grittiest wins of the year in quite some time. So the "Oh my God," I completely agree.
Yeah.
Mine.
What do you got?
Would be from a little known band by the name of Death Clock.
It's the Adult Swim guys, right?
Yes, Metalocalypse.
Metalocalypse, yeah.
The song is called Face Fisted. When the game recap comes out and you get to watch the goals, just put that song on. It fits the mood of the game.
Yeah.
And Face Fisted. I mean, poor Nathan MacKinnon. We might have him come back with a Rip Hamilton mask. Think about that.
He's gonna come back with something. I mean, it could be full face shield for him. Yeah.
He'll be next level. He'll be like a superhero.
That will annoy the crap out of him to wear that thing. If he has to, that will annoy the hell out of him. I mean, in the end, it just seems like it's a really bad broken nose.
Just put 2 chickpeas up there and keep it in place.
Right. Oh man. Yeah. We'll see. But I guess, Bednar says he's not going to Chicago. What is there? So they got Chicago, and then they have what after that?
Buffalo on Sunday.
Buffalo, and that is at home.
At home.
Okay. So, yeah, I think those are two good tracks to kind of sum up this win over Boston. What a game, everybody! But what are your thoughts on it? Let us know. I mean, I know there's some things that we didn't touch on that the Avs have to improve on. Holy crap, the face-offs were atrocious. 58% to 42%. And I know, face-offs are one of those things where it's like some are more important than others. Center ice face-offs, I think, don't mean a thing. But yeah, when you're on a power play and you're in the offensive zone, you want to get that one.
Yep.
The Avs were bad. They were bad when it comes to face-offs. The shots on goal, it was rough in the beginning, and a lot of that was credit to Boston. Boston plays a physical game, and they make it tough to find like holes in the defense. But when the Avalanche had nothing, they just threw caution to the wind. Just like, we're down 2-1. We have to go. And that is where the Avalanche kind of just rose to the occasion and said, we'll find ways. We'll find ways to get shots on net. And in the end, 41 shots on net for the Avs. That's the good part of it.
Yeah, and 1 for 4 on the power play on both sides. So I will tell the Avalanche this: do not test that penalty kill like you did in that second period. We cannot do that. Especially, we talked about it going in. They have like the 9th ranked power play, and we have the 26th ranked penalty kill.
Yeah.
You cannot test that. And we did that multiple times in the second period. We got to clean that up.
Yeah, and silly penalties like Eric Johnson's. But look at the Bruins, 21 blocks. Like that. They're good at that. They're good at doing that. So, yeah. All right. Well, go check out the tracks. What do we call it? It's the LOPN.
The sound check.
That's what we're calling it. So, Kaiser
Let
Chiefs.
us know yours as well.
Yeah.
Throw your vibe of the game as well. But
like I said, I put a graphic up on Twitter so you can comment underneath that what you think the song that kind of encapsulates this game. So Like I said, for me, Kaiser Chiefs, oh my God. And for Kyle,
Death clock, face fisted.
I was going to do something like blood related, but I'm like, that's just, don't kick the man when he's down. That's not good.
Yeah. It's all out of love, Nate.
Yeah. Nothing but love for you. So, all right, everybody, catch your breath. Got a day off from Avalanche hockey, and then right back at it in Chicago. So we will be back tomorrow to discuss anything else going on. Maybe, I'm sure we're going to have more to say about this game.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be back tomorrow. But he is Mr. Kyle Sullivan, Shaggy Von Doom. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.